morning. Good morning.
Hold on. Hello, John. Hello, John. Can you hear me? Yeah, I can see that you're talking, but I don't hear you yet. Hold on. I want to get you into the mix. I decided because we're now live. You cannot hear me. Give her a little bit more distance, John. on. You need to move back. Hello, John. Can you hear me by any
Good
chance?
morning. Are we online or not?
Yes, we are online.
Right. Okay. I could do with lifting
Okay.
the camera up a bit, couldn't I?
I can see you. How are you doing? Good morning.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's amazing that the miracle of virtual technology can put me sitting next to you.
Yes. Shall I
Uh,
take
yeah.
take away the chair? That's maybe a
it,
little bit better.
it's amazing how much taller the Dutch are than the
Okay.
British.
All right.
I think I just need to raise the camera here in
Okay.
studio 27.
Okay. So meanwhile, if you want to do that, I'll put another image in, John. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'll be about 2 minutes. Okay.
Okay. So these are the interesting moments of live broadcast, and in preparation of what we are going to do, we'll be back in a minute. John, you're now live, and
Right.
I would very much appreciate if you explain to the audience what's going on and what we're doing at the moment. While uh, I'm going to try to see if we can get a colleague connected, Dr. Vincent, who is
Well,
who I will get connected, but I'll get you in full screen in a minute, which means that I have to put you out of my studio, really. Uh,
okay. Well, I'll
uh,
have green screen then.
yeah, you will have a green screen, or I can put you on black. Hold on, I'll put you on black.
Yeah, okay.
Can you just talk so I can arrange some stuff?
Okay, so welcome to a preliminary line transmission. As many of you who followed us over the years will know, we're transmitting from the studios in Utrecht, but by the miracles of modern technology, I'm actually sitting in the UK. Obviously, this is because of the COVID-19 crisis. We're hoping to transmit on the 18th and 19th of May. Um, a groundbreaking transmission which brings together virtually all of our surgical colleagues scattered around the globe. This will involve all continents and I'm sure will be extremely exciting. World. At the moment, we've got over 30 experienced clinicians involved, all leaders in their fields, and we're going to have a virtual auditorium which runs alongside the conference, which will have approximately 3,000 colleagues, again from multiple countries. We believe as an organisation that COVID shouldn't stop us educating. We have a duty to keep on training junior doctors and our trainees, and some of our colleagues have developed a specialist interest in the same area as us. And by making this conference available to everybody, including those trainees and colleagues, and indeed patients, we're able to do that.
John, just continue, please, and tell us about the past.
LION started really in 2003 when three of us sat down and had a think about how we could make it more cost effective for colleagues from around the globe to take part in medical conferences. We realised that as doctors we didn't really have a very good carbon footprint as we were travelling all the time, and we thought there must be a better way than this to give wider access to friends. We came up with the idea of LION, and to begin with we had point-to-point connections from exhibition centres where conferences were being held. The first major one was from Birmingham at the International Convention Centre. As we developed the technology in collaboration with GTS, the studios that you're seeing this transmission to from now in Holland, we were able to bring in multi-point connections from around the world, and in 2006 the LION Foundation was formed. Since then we've transmitted twice yearly major otology conferences, and at other times during the year point-to-point connections between well-respected hospitals in Germany, France and the Netherlands and the southeast of England. As a result, the technology has been polished and we're now in a position where we can have much larger audiences, although inevitably there are glitches from time to time. The plan on the 18th and 19th of May.
John, that's me. Just ignore it, John. John, that's me. Hello, John. That's me. Just ignore it. Ignore it. Don't do anything.
The plan on the 18th and 19th of May is that on the first day we'll be tackling cochlear implantation, acoustic neurosurgery for benign tumours, and also implantation technology for powered implants to help with hearing. On the second day, which will be the 19th of May, we plan to bring together colleagues who specialise in the reconstruction of hearing, particularly in the middle ear. And we'll be seeing well-respected teams from as far afield as China and Iowa in North America, New York, demonstrating their techniques.
Yes.
There'll be a series of panels composed of 6 individuals, one of whom will be a chairman and one of whom will be a presenting surgeon. Then 4 of the members of the panel, and during the first 30 minutes of each transmission, they will talk to each other about the technique that's just been demonstrated by the surgeon. At the end of 30 minutes, we plan to throw the panel open to the virtual audience who are sitting in the virtual auditorium, which is running alongside the panel discussion, and they'll be able to direct their questions via day hosts who are in the auditorium, or even directly to the members of the panel and the operating surgeon.
And John,
I hope that's made everything a little bit clearer.
John,
yes, Wilko.
Because you're now in the virtual studio again, and you're sitting on a little bit low chair, but that's okay. I was actually, it would have been nice to have Robert Vincent as the, because I think in the early days, Robert was the one who thought of this whole project, wasn't he? Or
Well,
can
I
you tell
think
me
that's,
something about?
three or four of us sat down together at a bar in France, if you really want the truth.
Yes.
And that's when we came up with the idea. We'd already done some basic connections between hospitals in the UK and Wales and France, but this was very rudimentary. And really, as the time went on, as we ran into 2005 and 2006, in fact, partnered up with GTS in Utrecht, the
Uh-huh.
technology was increasing exponentially, and the quality of images, we were beginning to be able to think about 1080p, which made a huge difference in the quality of transmission.
Yeah,
What we've actually
John,
seen over the years,
John,
yeah,
what's incredible to realize, because I remember in the early days we did all our broadcasts via ISDN, which was actually, of course, old telephone lines. I remember in the old days when I mean, we've been doing this for 15 years, like you said, or maybe longer, but I think it's 15 years. But I remember in the old days we had even, we used ISDN, but we needed 4 ISDN lines to have anything of an acceptable connection between the sites. And what we did, I mean, I remember I had, when I was still working in Amsterdam at that point, at the University of Amsterdam, I remember that I had an extra line put in to be able to do the broadcast. And what's amazing was that what happened was at the end of the day, I think LION had a telephone bill of 30,000 euros. 30,000 euros just on telephone calls. Do you remember?
well, this was amazingly expensive for the people that were trying to take part as well. And what inevitably happened is we ended up transmitting to smaller conference rooms in distant countries. Um, and it was inevitable that we had to find a cheaper and more cost effective way of doing it. I mean, one of our main aims was to reduce our carbon footprint, and that certainly wasn't the best way to do that. I mean, now this is an incredibly cheap way of running a meeting. I mean, our expenses really go down to the technology and the multiple studios that we've got, rather than the actual transmission. And to be able to use some of the software that's available now makes this accessible to colleagues on virtually every continent.
Yeah, but what you should realize, because I mean, we're now doing a non-live surgery event this upcoming May, the 18th and 19th. The difference is how, I mean, normally our events are what make it special is that we have, say, 20 or 25 surgery rooms around the world. And we get a live feed from the surgery room, John, all the way back to the studio. We mix it, we produce it, and we transmit it. And either we transmit it on our own video server, which we of course have in our infrastructure, or we transmit it via the internet. I mean, those were the options. Now, of course, due to COVID, things have. Actually, this setup is supposed to be slightly easier, which it is, I suppose. But I think now we have invited quite a bit of people, maybe even too many people, which makes it technically
Yeah,
challenging
yeah.
by itself. Yeah.
Yes. But of course, with those transmissions, live surgery is it's a very difficult thing to run, and there can be an element of stress for the surgeons as well. I mean, having done it, you do forget that people are watching you if you're experienced, but you're watching quite a long operation, which can sometimes get a little bit tedious for some members of the audience. The way we're doing it this time, they will be seeing to a certain degree edited surgery, which will
Yes.
shorten the amount of time that concentration is required for, and then more time can be given to questions, which I think could prove to be very beneficial.
Yes, I agree. Um, I agree fully, of course. And John, we have now, I think, expanded slightly further to the east. Can you say something about that concerning the
Yes, well,
faculty?
I think one of the things at the moment is this crisis has made us realise that we're all part of a big family as doctors, and it's not just Europe and North America. Although previously we had transmitted further afield, there were time constraints, really because of the time differences. But this time, by a little bit of clever arrangement, we've been able to involve colleagues in China, Japan,
Do you
and
by any chance
Oceania.
know? Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. We've got Yu Zhao coming from China. We've got Rob Briggs in Australia. Uh, we've got colleagues in Japan. You only have to look at the advert that's running behind to see all the names, or look on the
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
We've also got South America, two colleagues in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, uh, and Porto Alegre. We've got Spain, Italy, Germany. Most of the countries that are well known for their otological expertise, and particularly good to see colleagues not only in New York but from the University of Iowa.
Iowa.
Where we
Yeah.
have Bruce Gantz from Iowa, and Tom Rowland coming from New York. And I think that's wonderful. It shows that there are no boundaries when it comes to medical and surgical cooperation.
Really. Yeah. And of course, the topics that you briefly explained, that there are some differences in broadcast on each day. Can you say something more about that?
Yes, day one, which is Monday, is more related really to some of the more sophisticated techniques associated with uh, giving a sense of hearing to patients who've lost it. As cochlear implantation, which, as many of the patients who've had it before will know, is one of the modern miracles of medicine.
Uh-huh.
But also, some of these patients have lost their hearing because of the presence of a benign tumour called an acoustic neuroma. Um, and we will be showing surgery for that benign tumour. I believe
Uh-huh.
someone coming from Hanover, from Thomas Lenhart's there. And then finally, in the afternoon of the Monday, we'll be looking at some of the other methods of transmitting sound to the
Mm-hmm.
brain, some of the powered methods, and this is going to be quite an intense day. But we really have brought together some of the leaders in the field. The second day is more associated with the clockwork and the mechanics of hearing. Um, People whose middle ear doesn't work. That's where the three small bones of hearing are: the hammer, the anvil, and stirrup, malleus, incus, and stapes. And we're going to be looking particularly, to begin with, at a condition called otosclerosis, which is where the stirrup bone doesn't move. Normally affects people in their second or third decade of life, slightly more in women than men. And we're going to look at how we replace that stirrup bone to regain mechanical continuity. We'll also be looking at revision surgery for when the operation doesn't work, or works for a few years and then stops working. And in addition, we'll be looking at some of the surgery involved with the damage that's done to the ear by chronic ear disease, where those bones that are transmitting the sound get diseased, and particularly the middle bone of hearing, the anvil bone or incus bone. And we've got a very well-known speaker from Wexham Park,
Who's that?
near London, England. That's Christopher Aldrin,
Okay.
who's going to give an overview of what he feels about reconstructive methods for ossiculoplasty, and a very experienced panel again questioning him about that and giving their own personal opinions. And then as we move on into the afternoon, we'll be looking at other methods of bypassing the middle ear to give good results, and also of repairing damage to the middle ear for conditions like perforations of the tympanic membrane and operations on chronic ear disease, a condition called cholesteatoma, which is
Okay.
still rife around the world.
And can you say something about, because it's with COVID and all, we know that I mean the pandemic has caused a lot of surgeries to have stopped. Obviously, can you say something about are all these diseases can they wait indefinitely or?
Yeah, one of the problems we've got with COVID-19 is that ENT surgeons are really amongst the highest risk group, along with anaesthetists, and the membranes involved in the ear and the throat are those that harbour COVID-19. So there has been a big throttling back of surgery around the world because of the risk. And in fact, the first surgeons to die have been ENT surgeons.
Really?
So we're working very hard at the moment to find ways in which we can operate um, both to protect the patient and the surgeon. Now, the one disease that causes us all a problem wherever we are in the world is this condition, cholesteatoma, which
Yes.
is effectively a little sack of skin that grows within the middle ear and then expands outwards. It's a benign condition, but it
Yeah.
behaves in a very malignant fashion because as it increases in size, there are enzymes involved that dissolve and put pressure on the surrounding bone. And to begin with, that's not a major problem. But
Hmm.
in the later stages of the disease, it can cause life-threatening
Like
complications.
like what,
And
John?
well, one of them is a meningitis or a brain abscess,
Okay.
which is an extremely
Well,
serious complication.
but obviously these are very rare, and we don't want to frighten people. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think the essence is that these are diseases that need to be treated within a certain time span. Of course, it's not acute in most cases. I would say. Is that? Would you agree with
Yes.
that, or?
Oh, I
But
absolutely agree. And to put it in perspective, I mean, I'm from the West Midlands with a population of well over
watch out what
10
you're saying.
million.
Yeah.
And we would only have 13 or 14 patients per year out of that 10 million with the worst complication, which is a brain abscess. There would be a slightly larger number of patients with other complications, which would be vertigo and possibly weakness of the face, which many patients would call Bell's palsy, but it
Uh huh.
isn't actually a Bell's palsy, very similar, which is a weakness of one side of the face, again caused
John,
by this disease.
you're now confusing me. You're talking about Bell's
Yeah,
palsy, cholesteatoma.
yeah,
Uh, can you? I mean, this is not. This is the pre-conference. It's a test of what we are going to do.
yes, yes,
It's a small showcase of what we wanted to
yes,
do. We wanted to
yes.
invite Dr. Vincent, but I understand he may have some patient care things on his plate. We try to call him.
Right.
Uh, we can. What I know, maybe I'll try to get him connected via mobile phone. Maybe that will work.
Now,
What do you
Robert
think?
Vincent
Yeah.
that Wilko is referring to is regarded by many as one of the world leaders in the treatment of a condition called otosclerosis, which I was
No.
mentioning earlier.
No, no, no,
Yeah.
John. He's not the leader of in in autosclerosis. Yes, sorry, we were talking about
One of
cholesteatoma.
one
What are
of
you?
the one of
Sorry.
the world leaders. I
Yes.
say.
No, 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 no. Sorry, sorry. I thought you said
Yes. No, I didn't.
cholesteatoma because we were
No, no,
talking
no,
about.
no, 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 no. You need to get Wilco. Have you had a problem with your hearing, or do we need
What?
to? Have you had a problem?
No, no,
Yeah.
no.
So Robert,
Obviously, yes.
yeah, yeah. Robert Vincent of the
Autosclerosis.
Cots Clinic is an expert at rebuilding the bones in the middle ear,
Yes.
and we're looking forward to seeing him do that. In
Yes.
fact, he runs a very successful course every year, which many of us go to, and this year again, COVID-19 has meant that that's not going to be possible. So this will be
No,
an
no.
opportunity.
At least we know it's not going to be possible in its
Yeah,
current way, like
it's
a
current way.
meeting.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah.
exactly why we are pursuing our meeting at this point as it is,
Yes, we
John.
may be able to do a very similar. We may be able to do a very similar transmission.
Potentially, yes,
You know,
or
who knows? Yeah,
in some form or another. Yeah, absolutely. I
yes,
think that
yeah,
that
yeah,
would definitely make
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Um, so yes, so because you said you met in France in a bar where you apparently had a drink together.
Some lemonade. Yes, yes. There was.
Yes, yes, obviously.
I thought I I think it was just a like-minded group that thought we have colleagues around the world who can't have the benefit of coming to the south of France, or if they're even more unfortunate, coming to the Midlands of the UK. What 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 can we do?
Yeah,
What can
good.
we do? What can we do to share some of our good fortune uh, with being together with them? And it wasn't intended to be a big event to begin with, but as you know, it's mushroomed over the years and grown exponentially. I think Lion now has the accolade of being the biggest transmission of its type in the world. And
Uh-huh.
I think we've also gone out to every continent. I mean, you've got the metrics.
Yes.
You'll be able to tell in more detail?
Yes, like in the past, we would have at least numbers up to 7,000 during a broadcast. And that's we know that so precisely because we were using our own infrastructure. We had our own video streamers, etc. In this case, the metrics are even easier because I mean nowadays you get things via the website and via the streaming service that you're using. This year, like we said, will be absolutely different, John, because we contemplate whether it's a good idea to stream live over the internet or over Facebook. It depends a little bit. If we get positive reactions on Facebook, we may be doing it. But I think more importantly is I think we are now using a virtual auditorium, as you call it, and I would call it a virtual conference room, where people will connect together and will join the meeting together like that. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think the other exciting thing.
Because your question was the numbers. I can tell you now at this point we have 985 registries, people that have registered for the meeting, and it's growing madly. I think every day we have another 40 added, and we will have to close the doors on the virtual auditorium soon as we reach our limits. So I think that's one of the messages that we should send out, John, is that if we intend, or if you as a viewer intend to follow the broadcast on May the 18th and 19th, you should consider signing up at the website, which is lion-web.org, lion-web.org. You can sign up for free and join the broadcasts.
Well, I think those numbers are incredibly exciting, a bit daunting as well. But I've also heard that one of the benefits will be that in more than one country, the surgeons and trainees that connect are going to be able to get some of their continuing medical education credits, which is wonderful. I mean, as many people watching will know.
I don't want to say with whom, but I have been in contact with two huge international ENT societies that have recognized our meeting as for their CME, continuous medical education points. And I can tell you in the past, I've always had them from my institution or from my ENT department as well, or my national society as well. So I think many will recognize it as a validated point of education. And let's face it, John, what are the alternatives now?
Very little at the moment, and I have to be honest, and I'm sure you'd agree, medical education is taking a little bit of a back seat with all the other pressures that our colleagues have on them. But there are still a lot of doctors who are locked down, and this will be a fantastic opportunity for them to have mental stimulation, but also a boost in morale. Because this is actually bringing us together as friends as well as professional colleagues.
Can you continue for a moment? Because I managed to get a hold of Dr. Vincent. I think I'm not sure if he will be able to join it for a moment, but I'd like to see if I can connect him. I'll put you on solo mode so I can see if it's going to work. I'll be back with you in a minute. What kind of background would you like, John? I'll give you anything.
I don't mind. You can give me something with a bit of sunshine.
Okay. Well, it's outside. I mean, you're now in the space.
Right. Okay. I'm in space. So I'm at the International Space Station. Yes. So, yes, Robert Vincent, who we're going to connect with, is one of the brains behind this project. Very talented French surgeon who comes from the Coste Clinic in Béziers, which is internationally renowned for its otological skills. They have other surgery there as well, ophthalmology and orthopedics, together with consultations for cardiology, but otology is the main thing that happens there. And they put together a course many years ago, starting, I think it's 21 years ago now, that became one of the go-to meetings in the world if you were an otologist who wanted to fine-tune your skills and see some of the best demonstrations of surgical technique. That was where you wanted to go. The fact that it was in late June in the south of France obviously had nothing to do with any of us wanting to be there, but it was an excellent meeting, and they're very well set up for surgical demonstrations. All the theatres are linked, and the video quality that comes through is fantastic. But we mustn't just talk about them. We must talk about some of the other centres that are connecting as well. I mean, one of the biggest centres that connects is Hanover, which has enormous experience at cochlear implantation and powered implant surgery. And the head of surgery there is Thomas Lenhartz, a very well-known German professor. There'll be other colleagues as well from Germany, Jochen Müller from München, and Baumgartner, München, and Baumgartner from Austria. And in addition to that, we're quite excited, as I said before, about the connection with North America. Tom Rowland at NYU Langone, really they've been snowed under with COVID recently, but they're just beginning to come out of the worst of it, and they feel they'll be able to connect, give us the benefit of their experience. And Bruce Gantz in Iowa, extremely well known to otologists around the world for his work over the last 25 years, will be leading one of the sessions. So I think we really have got some fantastic people involved. You know, South Africa and Brazil are exciting. We think that China and Japan, sorry.
Because Iowa, is there any reason, because I think one of the main arguments not to invite that many other people is that we just typically don't have any more room, really. Isn't that the case?
Well, I think that, you know, the logistics of running a meeting like this are daunting, and we've dictated really that there will be a maximum of 6 or 7 specialists within the main session, and we're probably going to draw the line of numbers in the virtual auditorium conference room. I don't know what number you've decided on for that.
I don't know. It very much depends on what we can do, but there's definitely there is a limitation on what we can do. We will see and test what will be the limitation. Yes.
My perception is, with the way that the registrations are growing at the moment, is we're going to have well over 1,000, maybe even over 2,000 people in that conference room, which is going to be hard work for the conference room hosts, and hopefully the bandwidth and everything will stand up to this. But at the moment in testing, things have been fine.
Yes.
Are you having success with contacting with our French colleague?
I can tell you, I can see him. And the only thing is, I don't see him coming in on our screen because he's because I'm doing something wrong, I suppose. Because we tested.
Well, he's normally he's normally technically very adept, so I should think he's probably got French steam coming out of his ears.
I don't know. He can hear me, but he cannot hear you. So there's definitely because I was trying to get him in on a different way, because the way that you're connected to him doesn't work apparently. Which is a good final repetition, which means that we need to test it again, because apparently there are some issues that we didn't have before.
Right. Well, maybe worth playing the
trailer,
the visual media in the background, the trailer, while you try and get that connection.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm working on my connection as it is, and my watch tells me that I should move. So that's another thing. Lots of input, getting lots of input.
And maybe if we also stress to the audience who are watching at the moment that I'm virtually present in Utrecht.
Yes, yeah, well, but
I'm
they know
actually
because before
I,
half a minute ago
I'm
you
actually
were
sitting in the countryside in Staffordshire in the UK.
well, and yeah, well, you could tell us about the weather or something. So
Yes, well,
I'm not sure if you can see. Here is Vincent. So I'm trying to get
right,
this laptop connected to the other PC to get him in, which is an on-the-fly
right,
decision. But we've
yeah,
tested this before, John. But I am
yes,
not sure why it will not work now. Um, and I actually would like to ask Vincent if he's able to connect via his cell phone, because that normally works better than certain computers.
yes, yes.
But that would be with the same connecting technique via cell phone. I can see him. So Robert, please say hi. Okay, he's going to call the same
Okay,
VMIX, Robert, not with Zoom. The next thing is I will connect WhatsApp probably to the studio so that we can get him in. So we hope that he is going to be able to connect it in the same way that you are, because that would make life a lot more easy for me.
well, I mean, you can see from the paraphernalia on the desk in the studio there that there are quite a lot of connections involved in this, and it's one of the reasons why these pre-event transmissions are so vitally important.
Well,
Is technical glitches like this need to be fine-tuned
Well, the
and sorted out.
complex thing, John, of these things is it's very difficult to find out if the glitch is on this side or if it's on the other side. With the 36 connections that will be having, it'll be quite difficult to determine whether it's.
Yes.
It'll be challenging, and this is a
Yeah.
very good. In this sense, it's a very good test, a pre-test for the conference. Um, John, so the virtual auditorium. Can you explain a little bit more about what's the idea behind the virtual auditorium? Because I missed that.
Right. Well, up until relatively recently, most
Yeah.
surgeons in whatever specialty they're in or physicians from around the world went to conferences and they sat in an audience. On stage, one of their colleagues would make a presentation, might be a
Yes.
surgeon, might be a physician, and there would then be a round table with a chairman and a panel. And the chair would present questions to the surgeon about what he just talked about, discussed with the panel, and then invite questions from the audience. This is essentially what we're doing. We're having a virtual panel which will listen to a surgical presentation, and then running alongside that will be a virtual audience, just like in a conference room, who will be able to put their hand up or some other method which we're working on, effectively being given a microphone and then present their question either by microphone or by chat to the panel and the chair and the surgeon. So it's just a virtual conference.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean that's the best that we will be able to do, I suppose. Because is there any other way to get this?
Well, I hope we may be able to bring some people in live to ask their questions. Maybe even have a picture of them.
Yeah.
You have to remember though, it will depend very much on the skill of the technical team back at GTS
Thanks.
and
Thanks for putting the pressure
two,
on.
the two hosts.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think the hosts are probably more important.
Yes. I mean, they're going to be trying to identify out of an audience of possibly thousands the pertinent questions that need to be asked.
Exactly, but at the same time, we will like to see if we can. At least we will see if we can also otherwise get audience information in. That would be nice as well. But
Yes.
audience
Well, we may be asked,
via chat. I mean,
yeah.
I mean not. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it
that
may be
we
if we come to a consensus when we have each session of a promising technique of treating a surgical condition, we may even be able to have a poll of the audience to see their opinions.
we will apply that part of the possibilities as well. So we will have a poll and predefined questions by the hosts of the meeting, and
Yes.
yeah. So I just send an invite via another system in the hope that
Yes.
we will be able to get Vincent in for a moment, and otherwise we will have a meeting elsewhere. Because I understand he couldn't connect via his mobile phone at the moment, and
Right.
yeah, we will see for a moment.
Well, the other alternative, I suppose, would be to have a natural break for a few minutes and then reconvene, if that's
Yes,
appropriate.
potentially. Um, yeah, potentially. On the other hand, this is just a pre-conference transmission. I think we should
Yeah.
also consider doing another one to make sure that um, all the glitches are ironed out. I suppose all the yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I believe we're bringing all of the surgeons together on the weekend before the transmission,
yeah, that by itself,
which I think is a good idea.
okay. All right, John. Do you have a final word? Because I'm sure we will schedule this again. Because I always want to check
Yeah.
what the streams looked like, if there was any social interaction, if any.
Yeah. Well, the final word is come and join us, and the best way to come and join us is to register your interest now today at www.lion-web.org. That
Okay.
way, you will be part of that virtual audience, and you will be able to have the opportunity to ask questions. If you're just watching streaming and you don't register, you'll still be able to gain benefit from the educational content, but you won't be able to interact. So we'd
Yes.
love it if you came and joined us.
Yes.
Thank you.
I agree. And as far as I understand it, if you register, you will get an invitation via email that you left during the registration a day before, or at least sometime before, not too long before, that's for sure. And you'll get an invitation to join and how to join. Okay. Thank you very much, John.
That's great.
Don't hang up. I'll talk to you in a minute. This is the last thing I want to say, and let me see. I like this one, and we'll end up with this one.